Digital Marketing Radio, episode 122, The Art of Storytelling in Marketing.
DigitalMarketingRadio.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by Aweber. Build your email list, engage your subscribers, do email the right way. I've arranged a special deal for all Digital Marketing Radio listeners, and that's a 60-day free trial with the email marketing software provider I use, Aweber. Lock in your 60-day free trial, that's double the normal time, plus view a special intro video that I've recorded for you at aweber.com/DMR. So just go to Aweber, AWEBER.com/DMR to get started today.
The big interview with David Bain.
Now, today's guest describes himself as a consultant, a storyteller, and a builder. He's also the entrepreneurship director of Next High School in Greenville, South Carolina, and one of co-founders and original architects of The Space, an entrepreneurship program at Wofford College. Welcome to DMR, Jeremy Bay.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you here. I'll tell you what, you can find Jeremy over at jeremybay.com, and that's Bay spelt B-O-E-H.
That's right.
I got that right. Great stuff. Okay, good start. So, Jeremy, is it important for every marketer to understand the art of storytelling?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the marketer, and now even digital marketer, is becoming such an overused term that being able to understand storytelling is really what's going to separate you or make you successful.
Okay, right. So have you been looking into the art of storytelling for quite a while then?
Yeah, I'd probably say that really the last 5 or 6 years, I've really dug into it, storytelling in different mediums and platforms, and kind of seeing how that makes us individuals.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love hearing from people who are, hearing from the real person as opposed to just some kind of standard boring article that they've written they think other people want to hear, certainly. So how did you decide that it was very, very important to understand the art of storytelling, or is that something that innately you've just felt that was the right thing to focus on?
No, actually, a couple of years ago, I came across an individual who's since become a pretty good mentor of mine. And he really focused in on how important it was, both personally and professionally for me, really to get my story out there. And so at that point is really when I kind of deep dived into it.
Okay. So is it important then for every marketer to understand the art of storytelling?
Yeah, I would go on a limb and say I think it's important for every human being to understand how important storytelling is, but especially someone who's a marketer.
I guess the challenge is because there's obviously different personality types out there, and some personality types are going to engage more with stories, and some people engaging more with facts, I suppose. How does someone who is naturally a little bit more focused on facts evolve themselves into be a successful storyteller?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think the best stories are ones that are based around facts. If you share your personal story, your life is a fact, and being able to present that to people is what really separates good stories, I think.
Okay. And is there any particular medium that is best to use to actually convey a story, or can any communications medium be used?
So I would say any. I'm actually surprisingly a huge fan of being able to tell your story on Twitter. And for a couple of reasons. One, oddly enough, I don't enjoy writing. So the 140 characters is a phenomenal constraint. And I think that it's an ability to interact with multiple people. But I think, to your point, there's numerous mediums that can get your story out there.
So would you say there's any particular format that a good story can be broken down to that makes it easier to write a good story?
I'm actually a big fan of starting every individual that I work with and having them take 140 characters and begin their story then, and then push it out via video or writing or poem, whatever really they can kind of connect with.
Okay, that's incredible that you start with Twitter, because it's such a limit on the number of characters.
Right.
So, do most people use Twitter in the wrong way?
No, I don't think so. I think everybody has a unique way to use it. I would say some people utilize it more for its ability than say others. But I think that the people who are utilizing it to tell stories or pass along valuable information kind of separate themselves from the pack.
Okay. And is there a right way in terms of the quantity of tweets to be tweeting all the time? Because I must admit, I actually follow. I don't follow too many people, and if I follow someone that just tweets all the time, then I'm probably going to be unfollowing that person fairly soon.
Right. Yeah. I think it's relevancy. I think that, you can't do it all the time, all day. You're right. Even that's obnoxious for me. And I enjoy Twitter almost too much, I think. But I think if you're relevant and sharing content with real people, then I think you're doing okay.
So, I mean, can you give me an example maybe of a good story that you've shared on Twitter, or perhaps someone else, maybe a client of yours has shared on Twitter and has resulted in business along the line, or at least it has demonstrated to be a successful marketing activity?
Yeah, actually, I worked with a veteran organization. United States Army members left and created a business about 2 or 3 years ago. And we worked out this program where every week they would share a snippet of their personal story about where they got. And you saw a dramatic increase in their Twitter followers and their personal interactions because they were sharing the story step by step on Twitter.
And is there any marketing tactic, incorporating other people's handles or hashtags within those tweets, or is that not an important part of it?
I think it is if it's relevant. I am not a huge fan of people who kind of over tag people just so that they can get their tweet more recognized. Gary Vaynerchuk, who owns Vaynerchuk Digital Media here in the U.S. Always talks about, not overloading people with irrelevant tweets. And I think that's critical.
It's funny, Gary Vaynerchuk always says that he was starting out doing Wine Library TV about 9 or 10 years ago or so. He always said that no one was watching. I remember watching them. So it was definitely me there, but I'm sure relatively no one was watching. Right. But it shows you that you've got to keep on plugging away, and even though you think no one is listening to what you're saying, your story, unless you keep on going, then no one will have an opportunity to listen to your story.
Right, and I think it's that's the value of storytelling, right? Is that daily for everyday human beings like myself, you don't know if your story is reaching too many people. But if it reaches one person and helps that one person, then it's an impactful story to tell.
Yeah, no, that's a great piece of advice, certainly, because you never know how powerful that one person is, of course, as well. Because if you reach that one person that happens to love what you do and share what you do with their perhaps thousands of followers, then all of a sudden your story is suddenly going to get out there.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. What about brands? Can you think of a couple of examples of brands that are doing particularly well by focusing on stories rather than more conventional forms of advertising?
Yeah. Well, I think overall brands are rushing now to storytelling. I think they have to in order to separate themselves. I'm a big fan of the Charity Water story. The Charity Water nonprofit story. I think they do a phenomenal job, really, to tell that story globally. And that's one of the ones that sticks out to me really right now. But I think it's interesting if you look and even if you break down everyday brands of household items, dishwashing detergent or laundry soap or motor oil are now becoming developed into stories for these companies so they can sell these products.
So, I mean, if you're a brand and you want to, weave a wonderful, interesting story, I suppose you always have to start with the end in mind and the purchase of a product or service. How do you go about selecting the actual storyline that you're going to implement, you're going to tell? Does it have to be based upon the character, the types of people that are going to be telling the story, or do you have to weave a story based upon some kind of persona that you've already evolved?
Yeah, I think. Well, I think it is. It's a good mixture of all those if you're successful with it. I think you have to think about what the end user is, right? So who's actually using that product at the end? Who's buying the product may not be the person that you're actually even talking to in your marketing. But then also sticking true to the brand it is that you're creating.
Okay. It's certainly something that I've got to get better at. I've tried writing a lot of blog posts in the past and perhaps been more focused on tactics and facts rather than actually weaving a bit of personality in there as well. So got to try a bit more about that. But I think it's also about using a medium that you prefer as well. And it's interesting that you prefer Twitter. Did you actually try lots of different mediums before you decided that Twitter was the place to be?
So I tossed it around a little bit. I don't love sitting down and writing, so blogging is not. I enjoy micro blogging, but major blogging is never going to be one of my things. I just don't have the patience for that. And I think there's just a sense of autonomy when you use Twitter that I enjoy, and to be able to push out content at a rapid rate.
So you don't actually drive them back to a blog or have an end goal at all? No, it's just Twitter.
Yeah, no, I don't. Oddly enough, for me, in a personal standpoint, Twitter is that ability to share that story and continue to push relevant content. Now, for clients, it's definitely walking them through how do we drive traffic from these social mediums into a website or a blog. But at a personal level, it's really just evolved into a place to connect and network.
So, I mean, you mentioned an example of a charity doing something really well there. What are some of the things maybe to avoid then when trying to tell a story online? Should you avoid, for example, talking directly about your products and services?
Yeah, I think the major thing to avoid is to make sure that you're not the individual or the brand that doesn't listen. So if you can organically grow and sell your product by listening to what your stakeholders and consumers want, then you're going to tell the right story. To your point, oversaturating your message with about your product, you lose that personal connection. And at the end of the day, that's all anybody wants when they're purchasing anything.
Okay, so your story should evolve over time based upon feedback that you get from your customers.
Right.
Okay, interesting. Because I'm struggling, whether to focus on a buyer persona that I've defined, but perhaps someone that I'm not so passionate about, or just actually focusing on doing things that I love to do. Because I love podcasting, talking about digital marketing strategy and things like that. And I haven't got a clearly defined buyer persona, and I focus on doing things that I love to do myself rather than actually having a think about target market. Do you think that's the wrong way about things?
No, I think that's a phenomenal way. I think the other way is the wrong way.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, no, I think that there's a lot of truth to be said about are you personally happy with what you're doing, and is what you're doing fulfilling your personal desire? Are you creating for others with yourself in mind, or are you just creating for others? And I think that if you go a different route, or if the end goal is the money or the amount of followers, and that becomes the focus, you lose sight of why you're really doing this.
Okay. I'm glad to hear that. And I mean, just to conclude our discussion about storytelling, how would you measure the ROI of storytelling when there's not necessarily any direct call to action there?
Yeah, and oddly enough, the number one question I hear is that, and it actually has the easiest response, is that you can measure ROI on storytelling because it has infinite ROI, because sharing your story, if you can connect with one individual, a brand can connect with one person, and it impacts them or changes them in some way, then you're successful.
Right. Okay. So it's not like traditional marketing, and any marketing director has just got to get their heads around that, and it's marketing, digital marketing is changing completely because of quality content marketing.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, wow. Well, let's segue into the second section of our discussion. So that focuses more on your thoughts on where digital marketing in general has been and where it's heading. So starting off with
software I couldn't live without.
So what software do you currently use in your business that if someone took away from you would significantly impact your marketing success?
I would definitely have to say Hootsuite for its quick analytics, and the entire Google Apps system is my lifeblood. So that for sure, I couldn't live without. So
wow, okay. I haven't used Hootsuite for a while actually, because so you are focused on other social networks than just Twitter, then obviously.
Yeah, but the Hootsuite and managed filter I enjoy just for the analytical data that it pulls back into it. So.
Okay. And here's a slightly more challenging question.
Mm-hmm.
What piece of software don't you use, but you've heard good things about and you intend to try at some point in the near future?
Oh, goodness. So I think in terms of from a digital marketing standpoint, this news push of Periscope or Meerkat and how that plays into digital marketing. I grabbed it, I think, the day it hit the iTunes store, but I have no idea what I'm doing with it. So eventually I'm really interested to dive into that and see how that becomes monetized for brands.
It's right for some people. It's not right for everyone. I think I will prefer Blab more than Periscope. Because it's more interactive. You can get other people on. I mean, this is one of the first Blabs that I've done. I did another test one. It'd be great to continue doing them and hopefully get some more interaction as well. Maybe even get some other people on in the future. But with Periscope, obviously, you've got a one-on-one situation, and you're doing all the talking. I mean, granted, you can read comments and interact with people like that, but I felt very much as being the performer and under pressure to keep on coming up with something there. And I like interacting with people and asking other people's opinion on things as well.
Right, yeah.
So we'll see how it evolves. It's an exciting place at the moment. But let's move on to...
I wish I would have.
I'd like you to look back on the very first day that you're involved in trying to market a business online. What didn't you do so well? What do you wish that you would have done differently?
I treated, I think the thing that I did so wrong, and it was for like a 3-month period, was I treated the business that I was working with simply as a business. I didn't make any type of connection or understand where they were going through. I didn't know anything about their customers. So for me, I just felt the more content I push, the better return I would get, which was the exact opposite.
Right. Okay. You treated people like numbers rather than real people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow. Yeah. I think we're all guilty of doing that, certainly.
Yeah.
The this or that round.
So here we go. This is the quick response round. 10 quick questions. Just 2 rules here. Try not to think about the answer too much, and you're only allowed to say the word both on one occasion.
Right.
So ready to go, right? Email or Twitter?
Twitter.
Audio or video?
Video.
Affiliates or display advertising?
Affiliate.
Facebook or Google+?
Facebook.
Online press releases or one-on-one relations?
One-on-one.
Paid search or SEO?
SEO.
Email contact form or telephone number?
Email contact.
Website or app?
Website.
Social subscriber or email subscriber?
Social subscriber.
And local marketing or global marketing?
Global marketing.
It wasn't too difficult at all.
You threw me with the Facebook and Google Plus.
That's interesting because according to a few people, Facebook is used about 100 times more than Google Plus. So you're still using Google Plus? Is that what you're saying?
No. I was surprised that you said Google Plus.
Facebook or Twitter? Is that a better question?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's move straight on to
the $10,000 question.
So, if I was to give you $10,000 and you had to spend it over the next few days on a single thing to grow your business, what would you spend it on, and how would you measure success?
I think I would spend it on. Great question. For me, what I would do is I would spend it on the ability to bring anybody that I've ever worked with, bring them all together in one room and cover the cost of all that and get back all the data and feedback that I've never gotten that I probably could be using today. So
that's great. I'd just like to sit back and think about that for a second and imagine the top people that I've perhaps worked with in the past and maybe haven't taken full advantage of their brains as well.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Great one there. So that just leaves us with
my number one takeaway.
So you've offered a lot of great advice in our conversation, but what's the number one takeaway? What's the single most important step that our listeners need to take away and implement within their own businesses?
So the number one thing that listeners need to do is understand that impact should be at the beginning of everything they do. So I always have this saying that a lot of us say that I work with. It says, hustle over recognition and impact over everything. And if you're making an impact, the end result should be that you're improving people's lives and not how much money you're making from it.
Hustle over recognition and impact over everything.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Does it? Is that too many characters to fit into a tweet, or does that fit?
No, it falls in perfectly.
I'm sure I'll have to. And can I quote you? Do I have enough characters to quote you as well, though?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make that into an image tweet and quote you because that's superb. Excellent stuff. Well, I reckon that takes us to the end of our discussion today. So thank you so much for your time and your advice. What's the best way for our audience to find out more about you and what you do?
I would say Twitter, it's at Jeremy_BAY, and then my website, which is jeremybay.com.
BOEH.
That's right.
And thank you, dear listener, for joining us as well. If you like what you heard, I'd really appreciate your feedback. So just go to digitalmarketingradio.com/iTunes and please leave an honest rating or review. It'd be absolutely fun to hear from you, and of course, it would also help to improve the ratings, the rankings of the show on iTunes. And finally, I'm also hosting a brand new live show every Friday called This Week in Organic. So head over to thisweekinorganic.com to find out more about that. But until we meet again, adios. Great. Thanks again, Jeremy.
Thank you so much.